welcome to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Onvic and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. Today we're talking insurance. I'm joined by Debbie Arnold, she's with Sound Insurance Services, and John Raymond, he's the representative from the APA. Welcome, Debbie, it's nice to have you back again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Insurance is always so exciting, I'm just beside myself.
But there is a silver lining somewhere.
There's always silver linings.
Because Ontario is not the highest place in Canada now.
We
for
are
insurance.
not.
Yeah.
No, we've been exceeded by
Dethroned.
BC,
Oh, really?
which is wonderful, by about 15%.
Well, which is wonderful. Sorry, BC viewers, that's not quite what we
No,
meant.
that's not what you want. But unfortunately, BC is going through a really rough time right now. They're $1 billion in debt, ICBC. Lawsuits are rampant. Claims costs are ridiculous, and they haven't taken the rate increases they've needed. And I mentioned the last time I was on the show, rates were going up 30–40% in BC, and they have. So now their average premium is about $1,680. We're still in the $1,500 zone. So we're no longer the most expensive insurance in
We
Canada,
can't talk
which
about
is
that.
great.
Well, for the time being.
For the time being, yeah. Well, hopefully rates will start stabilizing and coming down with the restructuring of the product coming this spring. There's some things that are be implemented by the government that are certainly or hopefully will help reduce our claims costs.
I want to ask you something because there's a question that comes up all the time, and especially across Canada now. I think it's important. Some jurisdictions are government insurance, and
Correct.
some, like ours in Ontario, are private.
Right.
And everyone always says, oh, my brother-in-law in New Brunswick only has to pay this much.
Right.
Can you tell people why their brother-in-law in New Brunswick is apples and oranging? Or is he?
Well, first of all, it is totally apples and oranges if you just look at a product standpoint and what's paid for in different jurisdictions. So when you have a government-run system, typically the government is taking care of the liability and the accident benefits, and your benefits are really reduced.
That would be in Quebec a good example.
Quebec is a very good example. Quebec's a different example, though, because there's absolutely no tort liability in Quebec.
Right.
So if you're severely injured in an accident, you don't get to sue to get future economic loss. You know, and that's a big problem for me. You know, if you have a 25-year-old who's been working on his PhD and his future earnings were going to be $200,000 a year as a lawyer, and he's severely hurt, he's not going to be a lawyer. He loses out on that income for the rest of his life. He can't sue for compensation for that in Quebec. In Ontario, you can. In most of the other provinces, there is some form of tort liability. And I think that's important. As Canadians, we're a capitalist society, we're not socialist. So you should be able to get some sort of economic reimbursement when you've been severely injured. Problem in Ontario is that we're supposed to only sue if you're catastrophically injured. There's lawsuits coming out that you're not.
You've mentioned before,
I
one
have
of the
mentioned that
biggest
before.
problems we have in Ontario is that too much money is not going to the injured party.
Absolutely.
And it's not staying with the insurer who needs to make money. It's going into this giant chasm in between, which is called Lawyerville and courts and specialists and experts.
Specialists, the DACs. There was, I mean, this is such a huge topic.
Yeah.
You know, and what I'd like to say is the things that are coming out in the spring that the government is supposed to be implementing. Serious Fraud Office is one, and that's going to have stakeholders managing it. So you're going to have the police involved. There's going to be insurance company representation there. There's going to be government representation there to look at and investigate serious fraud. My hope is that these frivolous, unmerited lawsuits are going to come under that purview. That's going to help reduce fraud, which will reduce cost. Having some standard treatment protocols is definitely going to help the fraud and those assessments. There's doctors out there that are paid $4,000 and $5,000 for assessments, and they're not seeing the patient.
Yeah.
This is a huge problem, you know, and they're hired not necessarily by the insurance companies, they're hired by the lawyers. So it's on both sides where you're getting conflicting ideals about what a client should be treated for. And if we have standard treatment protocols, which they do in Quebec, and in most of the other provinces, this will be a good thing. So if you have a grade 1 whiplash, you're getting six, you know, 6 treatments, and that's it.
Now, you two work together, so
Yes.
someone
Yes.
can call the APA
Yeah.
and you also have insurance referrals as well as new car and used
There's
car
a
and
program
mechanics.
in place. Yeah.
So it's a very thorough setup. A lot of people have asked what the APA does and what it does for consumers, and that's another facet to the company, is that they can direct you to Debbie here.
And we have this resource. So when we get a phone call in, one of the classic ones we could talk about is, how come my new car is less expensive than the last car in terms of insurance? I have a 2010 Camry and I'm paying X, but on my 2017 I'm paying X minus. So
Yes.
we will send those to Debbie and she will explain them. And there's really a lot of knowledge that has to be distilled to members and non-members, the general public, about insurance that Debbie does every day on our behalf for our members, which is more than timely.
When we come back, we're going to talk more about the fabulous Debbie and all those products. More lemonade coming up. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Omvic and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. We're talking insurance with Debbie Arnold and John Raymond from the APA. There's a column coming out, actually when this tapes, it'll be next week. They did, ICB, the Insurance Bureau of Canada, IBC, I always mix it up.
IBC.
They did a survey, and a lot of people, the pink slips in your car that you're always losing?
Yes.
And I think 24% of people found out their pink slip was expired when a cop pulled them over, but a lot of them noticed they've got the wrong ones. I have about 12 in there, like they're all the same. 80% of people in this survey would like to have their pink slip on their smartphone.
Right.
And there's reasons why we haven't caught up. I can see my credit card online, I can do all my banking, I can do everything, utility bills. Insurance is a whole nother animal. So how come?
Okay, well, there's a couple of things there. First of all, 95% of the business I do, and I do new business on a daily basis, is done over the internet. I email applications, I email the liability slip. It's available on somebody's smartphone. You could
But
see
don't you
it.
have to deliver the hard copies as well?
They do get delivered when the policy's issued, so
Yeah.
I issue a temporary liability slip. The client can have that on their phone. There are issues in terms of getting rid of them entirely from a privacy standpoint, and you spoke about this in your article, is that can you give your phone to the police officer and him not go rooting through your phone for other things?
And that's the privacy
And that's the
commissioner
privacy
plays
issue.
in. There's a lot of layers.
There is.
For-
There is. The technology is available and it's there already from an insurance standpoint, from a broker management system standpoint. We have the technology. The insurance companies certainly have the technology. We don't see paper policies anymore, or rarely. Everything's downloaded into our system. I send a lot of soft copies out to our clients who prefer to have that method of delivery. They're looking at giving discounts for clients who want exclusively paperless delivery options. The problem is still going to be that little pink card, because part of the Highway Traffic Act is that you have to be able to produce proof of insurance in a paper format. So they do have to update the regulation. They do have to update and find a way that a police officer is not going to be able to look through the rest of your phone.
And
You show this.
Yeah.
The thing that I find interesting about it is that, yes, you need proof of insurance, but when you go to register your vehicle or renew your plates, you have to provide proof of insurance. Your serial number is actually synced up with the insurance company's computer and MTO. So you'll get a letter if you've changed insurance companies right before your plates are being renewed. You'll get a letter from MTO saying your car is not insured. When it is, you've just switched insurance companies. So they know that. An officer will know that you're insured or
Well,
not.
he knows when he's back, when he pulls you over.
Exactly.
I was talking to...
Exactly. So I find that problematic. There are some problems with that system, though. For example, you have a summer and a winter vehicle, and your plates are renewing kind of in between the time that you're switching out the coverage. MTO won't be able to identify the winter vehicle as insured yet because the change hasn't gone through when you're renewing your
timing
plate.
issue.
It's a huge timing issue, and I've had client sitting at MTO calling me screaming because it says that their vehicle isn't insured when it is. It just hasn't hit their
But
system.
maybe if, like in the U.S., they have app-based for your phone that you could have insurance companies, and they have all your data, including filing a report and everything else.
Oh, exactly. And that technology is available in Canada. It's available in Ontario.
Well, I think it's the uninsured insurance side. If
Yeah.
your insurance has been canceled, because a lot of times back in the day, if you had that pink slip, I'm insured, and police officer wouldn't know
No.
that it had been voided because they didn't have their
Or it was
computer.
canceled for non-payment or whatever.
So
That's right.
it's proof of insurance, but it's also proof that you haven't been canceled on your insurance, and that pink slip means nothing,
Right.
which is
Exactly.
crazy. But they have to pull in the privacy commissioner, so a cop can't go through your phone.
So there are, like you said, there are a lot of layers. We'll get there. It's
Yeah.
the insurance industry, though. We work at it, well, technology in the insurance industry works at a snail's pace. They're catching up. They're working towards being more consumer friendly and online friendly.
And I'm not usually nice to the insurance companies or the insurance business because it is so ludicrous in so many ways, but their hands are tied by legal, like when we say it has to have a hard copy, by the privacy commissioner, which is a whole other branch of law that says we have to make sure someone can't go through your phone if you're going to use it. What if your phone's dead? What if you have this? So they have to shoot holes in all the
Well,
arguments
that's
and rebuild
fine,
it.
but you know what? Consumers need the tools on a device or a way that they understand it and can use it, right?
Exactly.
And this
I wouldn't
survey
want to-
says they want it.
Yeah.
They do, but you also have to have a backup plan.
Oh yeah, no,
You know, you do
absolutely.
have to be able to produce the correct insurance at the time of an accident,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that can cause problems too.
So, anyway, the good news from this survey from Insurance Bureau of Canada was people are moving towards it. They do want it, and they've asked for the regulation to be stepped up so they can start offering the products that people want and have it served to them in the form that they want it. I just said that all in one sentence.
That was very good. I
Debbie.
just,
So
Thank
when?
you, Debbie.
When are we going to see this?
We'll be back with more lemonade after this break. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Omvic and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. Our favorite segment, Ask the Mechanic. I'm joined by Chris Muir, our resident mechanic, and John Raymond, he's consultant with the APA. Let's go right to the phones.
I purchased a Ford. It's got a dual transmission, and it's been in the shop the last 2 summers. This last one was a whole week in a rental car, and they had to do a new clutch and tranny, and the continuing problems, and I just want out of the car, and I can't even resell it because of the reputation. Thank you.
I don't know what year this car is. I'm going to guess it's a 2-year-old car if she said it's.
This may or may
guessing.
not qualify for CAMVAP. Unfortunately, she's not alone. We all know people that have gone through this either personally or have called the APA. I would say that she should log her complaints in with Ford at least and get a ticket number. She could show her work orders to an APA counselor, and we could see what other options she has, because like you said, it's dependent on age and mileage. It's a very unfortunate situation. We're seeing issues like this, maybe not necessarily in transmissions, but in engines. Hyundai has one. There's actually a class action suit in Quebec now with Kia and their Forte 2-liter with piston slap or knocking, and the APA is involved in that class action suit. So she should monitor it, notify Ford Canada, and
The other thing is when you go in and you're requesting them to look at something that's happened, make sure they open a ticket, like they start and enter it in
documentation
and
for
sign it off. Because if it's not closed, it doesn't exist that you came in.
That's
so
right.
please, if you go in with a problem, say you want a copy, you want to print out,
make sure your work
they've-
order says what your complaint was.
even if it's zeroed out for cost, you want to
Honestly, even if it's included on your oil change ticket, make sure that they put it on that oil change ticket. If they say it's going to be a $30 inspection fee or a $50 inspection fee if they don't find anything, you pay the fee to get the work order.
Yeah, you want that work.
You want the history.
Because you need a paper trail.
Yep.
And with the mileage on it, because if a problem starts within warranty but extends outside of it, your only saving grace will be that you talked about it ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, Ruth, I hope that helps you a little bit. Let's go to the next call.
Yeah, I just want to say that the German cars, the Audi and Volkswagen, have a lot of electrical problems, more than other European makes.
We're seeing
Yeah.
increased electrical bugs just as we move forward in the high tech.
In truth,
stuff.
all the German makes have had their fair share of electrical and software problems, but
Yep.
so have other makes, including Japanese and domestics.
Certainly.
As the industry has moved forward in terms of technology
Yep.
and the number of software upgrades and other things, there have been all sorts of problems moving forward, which Chris could certainly add.
Yeah, I mean, Volkswagen Audi is just one tiny piece of the puzzle. We've seen, or we've discussed in the past, German, Japanese, American companies, all of them have their concerns, certainly moving forward with electronics, some more than others. But I wouldn't say that Volkswagen by any stretch is the rarity in the European market. They're kind of the norm in that German car market
I
right
think
now.
we're driving computers, and people have to start. You'll get a recall saying, "Bring it in." We have to update
Yeah.
it, recode it, reboot it, reflash it.
And a misconception, two examples. One is transmissions. ZF builds a transmission for a variety of different manufacturers with different software. Some of the vehicles where the software is not as developed, they've had issues. Other ones haven't. But that transmission could be in a BMW, it could be an Audi, it could be in a not necessarily a General Motors product, but another company's product. And also with the safety systems, a company called Mobileye, which is now owned by either Google or Microsoft. They've had issues too, and that's gone on almost virtually every car that
So
has a
some models
safety.
have their issues, but generally we can't paint every
No.
maker with the same brush. We'll
No.
be back after this break with more Lemonade Car Show. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Omvik and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. This is my mechanic, Chris Muir, and John Raymond with the APA. We're going right to the phones again.
I just want to inquire about the Beetle Volkswagen, anything outstanding problems.
Okay, without a year, let's approach this question generally speaking.
Doesn't matter
What
if
should
it's
they be
a
looking
Beetle,
for?
a Golf, or a Jetta. Volkswagen, like other manufacturers, had their fair share of problems.
Yep.
They're well known. They didn't affect all model years. The newer ones appear to be better, but Chris and I could talk about ignition coils and things like that.
Early on, I mean, yeah, there was ignition coil problems right up through the mid 2000s, and probably a little bit further on than that. If you get a misfire on them, they are a nightmare to fix. But as far as longevity and drivability goes, they drive well enough. They're a little bit expensive on parts, but not irrational by any stretch. They're an okay car.
So if he's looking at a used one, he can Google that year, that model, and
Yeah.
problems, and find out what's
You can
been
go
going
on
on.
to carcomplaints.com. It's a US
great.
website. It's pretty good.
It's
Ask other owners when he goes on the road. I would say anything 2012 on he's pretty good.
He's
Yep.
pretty good. So drive it if you like it, make a deal, and take it home. So I hope that helps you. Thanks for calling. Let's go to the next call.
Hi, my name's Al Ralston. I just bought a new car, and I didn't realize till I got home that there's the package that you have to buy when you get a new car or a used car, the Carfax. The dealership charged me for a Carfax for a brand new car. I'm just curious, is that proper or not? Thank you.
I would have a question. We were speaking about this earlier. some dealerships will license and register cars, and they're the loaners that when people come in
Yeah.
to drop theirs off, it might have a few thousand kilometers on it. So if you buy a car, it could be the current year and a new car, but it's actually 3 months old. If that's the case, it does have to have that, which is what, $20, I believe.
That's the used vehicle information package is
Yeah.
$20, and then there's a charge for the Carfax report, which of course, as we know, goes back in and checks insurance history or the history of the vehicle. But yeah, if it's a demo and they've charged for a Carfax, I mean, it's not unheard of. If it's a brand new vehicle,
If it's brand new, then no,
Yeah,
you still pay the call.
brand new means different things to different people.
Yeah.
He bought a demo when it was registered within the dealership to a different entity within that dealership group. They may do a Carfax or CarPro. Many dealers don't do that, so there is a question mark there. I would say he would be a really good candidate to call Vic in Ontario, the regulator, and talk to them over their helpline and
So
have a
definitely
copy of his contract.
If it's a brand new car, definitely call OnVic. And if it's a demo, consider calling OnVic.
yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
Okay. We can go to another call.
Good afternoon. Question, I wonder if you could answer it on TV, is a 2011 Cadillac STS. Was there many problems with them? I'm looking at one to purchase with 50,000 kilometers from a dealer in London, Ontario. I'm just wondering what their thoughts from the professionals. Thank you.
Cadillac has had a number of problems, specifically in those years. We actually talk about it in the Lemonade car guide that comes out every year, so that's been covered before. You can also go to carcomplaints.com, which lists them. There were a variety of problems. Are there good cars that were reliable? Yes, and there were some that were less than stellar. They had HVAC problems. They had other electrical issues with the car. They had some suspension problems.
Yep.
I believe the STS. I think you know some
There's a
information.
low miler. Does that?
The low mileage, I'm not really happy saying that a low mileage Cadillac is necessarily a good Cadillac. The drivetrain in them, I think, is phenomenal, provided it's not the 3.6. Not a big fan of that engine, as we've discussed on previous iterations of the show.
Over and over and over.
Over and over and over again. As far as buying a Cadillac goes, I think they're beautiful. They're gorgeous cars. There's no argument to that. The longevity of them tends to be very, very costly on one's wallet. Cadillac is the leading edge of General Motors luxury. It will have technologies that haven't been around for years and years and years, and when those technologies fail, they become very expensive to repair. And that would be my only caution going into something specifically as plush as an STS, because it's going to have all of the bells and whistles, and when the bell falls off, it's really expensive to get it put back on.
He should have it inspected in an independent facility.
Outside the dealer.
Look at the history of this specific
Yes.
car, and also try and negotiate for a great GM extended warranty on this, so he has some peace of mind and coverage, which he'll probably use.
And he's probably buying it from a GM dealer, and someone probably traded it in and probably got, that's what I'm guessing here, but there's a profile.
Yeah,
So,
certainly.
So the dealer possibly could know the history of this car as well.
Cadillac
Get it
cars
checked.
are beautiful to buy new, and they are always fantastic for the first owner. If you don't know the history of the Cadillac, it is a gamble.
All right, fair enough. Thank you both. More
you.
questions next time?
Great.
That's all the time we have for Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by OnVic and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. Thanks to Chris Muir and John Raymond and Debbie Arnold.